TO plays.
Hey there, welcome back. This is Tio, bringing you another Kerbal Space Program video. I believe this is my fourth of my series of demoing the career mode for new players. Kind of taking you through the way I would play career mode from scratch, which I've done one full career mode and then one where I challenged myself to unlock the research tree using only Kerbin, the Mun, and Minmus. For those of you aren't familiar, that's basically everything within Kerbin's sphere of influence. So this is my second uh, career mode where I can actually leave Kerbin if I'd like and go and visit some other planets. I'm not sure that I'll do that, but where we left off last time, I accepted a few good missions. Four of them, I believe, or three of them were to rescue some stuck Kerbinauts in space. One of them is to get to the moon. One of them is to do a rendezvous. So I think the right thing to do is let's get the rendezvous and the rescue missions done, so I've got some more Kerbinauts. I may build my moon rocket just because when I do my rescues, I'm not going to get a lot of science for those anyway. So the parts that I've got are basically the parts that I'll use to get to the moon and land and plant the flag. That being said, I do have a gift that I haven't unwrapped yet in the form of 351 science points. That's a good chunk. So I mentioned before electronics. I'll want some solar panels, a probe core, my first probe core. So let me go ahead and just get that knocked out. I'm not going to necessarily need those to land on the moon, but I'd like to build a satellite and show you guys. That was, I still remember it. The first time I launched something and left it in space, it was a satellite, and boy was I excited, like a little school kid. So I built a satellite and put that up for you guys. Um, the P reentry pod fits two people instead of one. That's going to be handy, except, again, those Russian style, I believe they're Russian style pods. They're not aerodynamic, which means if you don't put a fairing around them, they're really difficult to control. They don't take off very well. If you got them protected by a fairing, everything's hunky dory. But I don't have fairings yet, so I bet you they're up here in construction. I see there's a couple decouplers, a structural. That MK1 crew cabin is going to be helpful for rescuing Kerbinauts if I choose to use the MK1 command pod. I think it's the Mark 1. Let's see. Oh, there's our 1.87 millimeter. I'm sorry, 1.87 meter fairing. So that's a helpful part. It's advanced construction. Could also start getting some bigger fuel tanks. And there's my handy dandy fuel duct. I'm going to need that if I want to do the staging that I plan to use to get to the moon. So let me get that out the way. So now we can probably get to the moon. Um, those are all nice but not important. Same, and that pool is going to be nice to get to the moon, but I don't technically need it. Let's see, irony. Let's struts. Yeah, let's do the right thing. Get some struts. Get that crew cabin so I can do my rescue missions now pretty comfortably. The struts are going to help as my rockets get bigger to hold things together. That's why I was looking for that. I believe I already had the decoupler size that I needed, so those are just lanyap and structural fuselage. Don't need that. Not now. Don't need this. Decouplers are going to be nice as we start to build space stations and start doing more maneuvers where we dock and refuel and things like that. The small one's not very sturdy, so as the crafts get bigger, it creates a lot of wobble. As you can see, I can't upgrade any of these because my research facility has not been upgraded, but we'll fix that soon enough. Trying to decide what else I want to use to get to the moon, because again, I'm not going to get a lot of science between now and then, so I might as well unlock what I'll need. I'll probably go with the top one, the Poodle engine. So I've got the little lander legs. Throw a bunch of those. I'm not worried about the medium-sized landing struts. Excuse me, the fairing. I can't afford both. Don't want the poodle. Don't want the fairing. Let's make a decision, Tyler. Let's go with the pool. I don't even know if I have the larger fuel tanks to use the pool. That's the meeting. Oh, okay. I've got the Rockwell Max 6200, so. I could also technically make a tiny lander and put the spark on it, but the carrier is probably better anyway. Okay, I'm gonna get a fairing. I've been wanting to do some funky builds. Don't need to be as aerodynamic. Now I can do that with the fairing. So this will probably be the last time I upgrade something until I touch the moon. Unless I get creative with my science, doing some other biomes or something. So let's do the rescue mission first. See if I can grab at least two of the Kerbonauts that are stuck. Now I've got a probe core. I've got my MK1, my Mark 1, and my crew cabin. Crew cabin doesn't have a door on it, so the only way to get into the crew cabin is entering something else, like the Mark 1. So I will need a Mark 1 for sure. You can't be cheap and just use the crew cabin. So I wonder if I can be really crazy and leave the crew cabin empty and use the probe core and get 3 of those Kerbals at once. Wouldn't that be the ticket? So I'll need a heat shield to get back in. I don't know that I'll need one because you're honestly not traveling very fast in low Kerbal orbit, but I'll put one anyway. That's the wrong coupling. I don't have the little one yet, so the first coupling is the right coupling. You do get a smaller one. Where's my workhorse? Let's get my Terrier engine. Got our photovoltaic panels, might as well use them. So 4 radially should work, no matter where the sun is, unless it's directly behind or in front of me. I'll collect some power, so long as it's at a slight angle, and because we're orbiting in the same orientation, we'll get power, at least through most of the orbit. I don't know how much charge this has. Let's see. 10 electric charge. 200's overkill, 100's good. I can show you a trick that I didn't really learn till much later. A lot of folks don't really appreciate or agree with doing it, but you can clip parts, which means right now this part is snapped to the top of the one below it. But I can select the move tool, drag it into that port like that. Sometimes I'll do that just because it looks cool. Sometimes I'll do it because I need to provide clearance. In this case, I'm not sure if that's going to improve the drag or not. Honestly, I don't think there'll be a whole lot of drag. A lot of folks are really adamant about putting pointy tops on their rockets. I don't think it makes a huge difference. It does add weight and it does increase your part count, but aerodynamics are definitely worth it. I just don't know that it makes a huge difference if it's flat or not on the very top. I don't know if the game does a great job of penalizing you for something like the battery on top of the probe core. You can also put the panels on the probe core because they're nice flat surfaces, but I want them as far out as possible like that. Right here, technically the craft would block any light from hitting them if the sun is in the direction of the engine. I don't need any science for this mission because we've pretty much gotten most of the science we can get around Kerbal, unless I happen to land on a unique biome like a desert or something, then I'll be kicking myself. Should have brought a little bit of science experiments with me. I'm going to put 3 parachutes this time. So long as I center the one on the back, the other 2 should clear the door. Let me see. No, it did not. And bring it down, see if it cleared it now. Nope, did not. Okay. Oh, no worries. I'll put 2 here. I've got the radial the drogue chutes. Those just slow you down. They don't bring your final speed to a manageable amount. You still need the bigger chutes. So what I will do, I'll put the bigger battery just because it's bothering me. Okay. So with the science experiments we had before and the payload, service bay, sorry, 3 parachutes got us down pretty slow. I'm sure this MK1's heavier. That's 0.1 tons. Oh yeah, it's a ton. So it's considerably heavier, but it still should be pretty slow when we do hit the water. Debating. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to trust that. I really want a 3rd parachute, just in case. So I'll put them on the probe core. I don't want to block the door. So we'll block the door. Kerbonauts can't get in and out, and defeats the purpose of the mission. So 3 parachutes plus the Mark 16 really should get me nice and slow. Let's construct the bottom stage. Ooh, I can showcase what I was telling you guys. My fuel lines are finally accessible, and what that means is I can stage some boosters. Instead of using solid fuel, I can use liquid fuel, and I can have them feed into the main tank so that the boosters will drain first, and then when they stage and fall off, that main core will still be completely full of fuel. Just gives you a little extra range. So I will put a swivel down here. I could probably fit another fuel tank, a little 400. Ought to do. And then, oh, sorry, couplings. Let's grab a couple radio couplings. Sometimes I'll put just a single coupling to start, and I'll build my booster, and then I'll select it and increase the symmetry. Because it does help depending on some of the parts and the symmetry you're using. Okay, so the Reliant is very similar to the swivel. It does not have a gimbal, so it doesn't help with thrust vectoring, but it's more efficient. You can see in a vacuum it's 240 kilonewtons, and in the atmosphere it's 205, whereas this is 167 in the atmosphere and 215 in the vacuum. So more efficient, but doesn't gimbal. So if you use the Reliant, it helps to compensate with some control surfaces or reaction wheels. But if you're not using a very aggressive flight profile, you should be safe. Here's my fuel line that I was telling you about. You click on the item that you want to drain first, and then you click on the item you want the fuel to go into. So this Reliant booster will drain completely while this booster is feeding off of it. So when I ditch this booster, then it'll start to drain fuel from the main tank to the swivel engine. This is a short booster, so I probably don't need a strut. So probably be stingy. Then now, like I mentioned, I've got a perfectly constructed booster with all the parts. I can increase the symmetry, and it'll add that many boosters. Let's see. This is going to cost me 16,000 credits. I'm going to get a lot more than that for rescuing the Kerbals, so I don't mind spending a little more if it means I'll comfortably get into orbit with lots of fuel in my Terrier stage. I don't have any reaction wheels or RCS, which really helps you dial in your approach to something. But I'll get plenty close enough to Kerbonauts stuck in space to be able to transfer them. No problem. I think that's it. Technically, I could put all this in a fairing if I wanted to, just to show you guys how it works. Which I like to put it below the coupling so that it ditches. That should do. Let's match the profile of the nose cone. Yeah, that just looks cooler. It's more aerodynamic. So I could have used the Onion reentry module, which is 0.77 tons. This is 0.84 tons. So less mass, way more electric charge. It's got its own heat shield and every stuff. Let me see. I'm gonna show you guys something. So it took me the way I have it constructed now is the way I would have done it in the very beginning of playing Kerbal. When the expansions came out and I replayed the campaign or the career mode, discovered these parts and figured out they're actually pretty handy. So like I said, they're lighter. It's got its own heat shield and it's got its own decoupler. So I can actually ditch that, connect it down here. Let me reroute my entire spacecraft so that the Onion is now the main controlling part of the vessel. Let's take off my. Oh, I need to grab those. Okay, I don't need the Mark 1 anymore. Now the Onion's the main part of the craft. And let's put my. Oh yeah, now my parachutes are all gonna fit nicely. Got 3 of them. Probably don't need the diamond anymore. I can ditch that and get my little battery again. See, this is working out. Sorry you guys have to watch me redesign my entire craft the last minute. So this bottom sleeve is actually a coupling, and I can just attach it to the rest of the rocket now. The fairing is going to protect the Onion so that it's not aerodynamically unstable. The door is actually here. It's always to the left of this bracket. I believe this attaches to the coupling and stays attached. So when this all pops off, it's a nice perfect sphere. I'm not sure if all the weight's going to be low enough. That's pretty close. Well, because I'll have SAS from the probe core, this thing should orient itself correctly in the atmosphere so that all the heat hits here and not up top. I don't want to blow up my battery and my probe core. I guess if I want to lower my center of gravity, again, I can use my part clipping, cheat a little bit, do that. You'd think this probe core is now sitting in the crew cabin and it's going to make it very uncomfortable. But that's not how the game works. So that just lowered my center of gravity just a hair, and looks better. Okay. And I guess I was lying before when I said I don't need struts. I'll put some struts because I want it to be nice and stable, so I don't make a fool of myself. And I thought that was on double symmetry, but it is not. Now for the first time in recording, I will actually save, because this is a handy ship to have, so I call it Rescue 1. Or Rescue for free. How about that? So just opening crafts, I come down to the rescue list. Sometimes I'll have rescue for moon, rescue for different purposes, but this is rescue for 3, and it's understood that it's little Kerbal. Love it. Probably technically have enough fuel to get much further than that, but not rescuing 3 separate Kerbonauts might be a little tough. So again, let's check my staging before we're ready to go. Got 2 of the engines. Let's grab the third. So that's 2 Reliance and a swivel. Gives me 1,200 meters per second. When I ditch my side boosters, I'll get 1,300 more meters per second because, again, this core stage will still be full of fuel, and I'm going to lose the weight of these 2 boosters. Then by that point, I'll be either be in orbit or I'll be pretty dang close. So I'll be out of the atmosphere. I'll ditch my fairing. I can separate my Terrier engine and ignite it at the same time. At 416 meters per second is deceiving because it's calculating that based on the fact that it would be in the atmosphere at an altitude of 0. But we won't be at an altitude of 0 by the time I use the Terrier. We'll be in space. So 1,600 meters per second just to play around in orbit should be plenty. And all right, what should have been a quick and easy build managed to take 20 minutes. So maybe we'll rescue one Kerbal, and you guys can get the idea. I'll rinse and repeat for the others. These aren't perfectly flat, but I don't think it's going to hurt. So let me double check that it's empty. Yeah, I don't want to send this up with anybody in the pods. I want to use my probe core so that I have capacity for 3 Kerbals who need rescuing. Here we go. I'll just jump right to it. There's four pods on the map somewhere. So one is Jedis's. There's me on the launch pad. And Fraud. Yikes. Okay. So when you read the fine print, some of them will say low Earth orbit. I'm sorry, low Kerbal orbit. This is not low Kerbal orbit. This is way out there by the moon. And actually, so the moon's going to pass. Hopefully, I will rescue Mad Mal before it gets an intersect with the moon, and it's his orbit or her orbit starts changing. It could get to the point where Mad Mal will actually collide with Kerbal or the moon, or get ejected in a solar orbit, and that wouldn't be very good. So I think I'll rescue the other 2. But technically, I've got enough fuel. I could probably go out and grab Mad Mal. Let's see. I'm just, like I said, genuinely worried that they, like right here. If the moon could be anywhere in this area if they intersect each other. That's bad news. It's also very inclined. Whereas these, which I was expecting to rescue 3 of these, they're all moving in the same direction, and they're all within the same inclination, and their orbits are dang near identical. So, all right, executive decision. Let's go get Mad Mal, because that's a race against the clock. Full throttle. Make sure my maneuver mode's on. SAS is on, which is just ability assist at this level. Let's get it. Delete all our messages. Plant the flag. Kerbal, all that stuff. If you look carefully, only that middle engine is gimbaling. The Reliance are not gimbaling. They're just providing some nice and efficient thrust to get us off the ground. Throttle down a little bit. See that resistance. We're going a little too fast for only being 11,000 meters off the ground, so I can slow down a hair because I really want to be turning more than this. So that core stage is still fully fueled, and it's going to allow me to gravity turn a little. Now that I've lost some of the weight, I can control the craft a lot better. Because I have a probe core, it's doing a lot of work for me just to keep this thing straight. I'm already past 70,000 meters. I can get up to 100, not being too worried. I don't want to waste a lot of fuel getting into orbit. Just need to get there. Then I can figure out how I'm going to rendezvous with this guy. Like I mentioned before, his orbit is inclined. I don't typically, my launch profile is pretty much always the same. I always leave at this 90-degree heading, regardless of my target's inclination. Every now and then I'll try to match the inclination from launch. I guess I'm just a creature of habit. This is easier. Not as efficient, but it works. So we're gonna get to our apoapsis. Let me add a maneuver. I don't usually do this, but just to show you guys how it works. At the point where the apoapsis and the periapsis switch places is where you circularize your orbit. So 80, 106, that's pretty circular. That burn's going to take 1 minute and 11 seconds, and I'm 1 minute away from the node. So again, I need to start my burn halfway to the node. So 30 more seconds. I'm out of the atmosphere, so I can ditch my fairing. There's the ugly spacecraft that's going to get the job done, hopefully. I'm going to go ahead and burn now. Don't actually need the maneuver node, it was just to give you guys an idea how it works. So I'm mostly going to circularize my orbit using the entire core stage and boosters, not even using the Terrier yet. So I'm burning before my apoapsis, which I don't want to do. Let's warp to the apoapsis. Because if I'm burning ahead of it, I'm actually raising it, which isn't really important right now. I'm trying to raise my periapsis, which is still way too low. So now that I'm at my apoapsis, I'll be more efficient. Let's get the periapsis up above 70. See, if I'm close to my apoapsis, it doesn't really move as I burn. There we go, periapsis, get up there to 70. Alright, that's stable. So I could just park here if I want. I could rescue the jettison Tanfrod pretty easily. Honestly, should I do that? I don't know. No, I'm sure I've got the time. Looks like Manuel's orbit is smaller, which means he's moving faster than the Mun. So he's not going to intersect here. He's probably definitely not going to intersect here. I mean, honestly, he's got a few rotations before I have to really worry, but let's go get Manuel. If I've got enough fuel to circularize, which I'm pretty much definitely not going to have enough fuel to circularize. Let me quick save. I'm going to save 1 or 2 of these guys, and then I'm going to go grab him. Because he's at an orbit where it's going to take several hours. I'm sorry, that's going to take more than a day. Whereas at this speed, at this orbit, I could save both of these guys within a few hours. So let's pick one. Jettison Tan Broad. So rule of thumb, you want your orbit to be smaller than the targets if you're behind them, and larger if you're in front of them. And ideally, you want to be behind them, because a smaller orbit means you're moving faster, means it doesn't take as much time to rendezvous. But when they're so close to the atmosphere, you don't have a lot of room to play. So let's pick Jettis, because he's right behind me. Set his target. Clear off all the other stuff. Get rid of the noise. Okay, so his apoapsis is 100. It's 84 and 82. So he's got a slightly smaller orbit than me, and our inclinations are pretty close. We're 6.6 degrees off, which usually, sometimes I correct that. Right now, I'm probably not going to correct it because it's negligible. So what I want to do is I want one area of our orbit, one section of it to pretty much align, and then that'll become my periapsis. The apoapsis can grow or shrink to increase or decrease the amount of time it takes for us to get to each other. So if this is currently our intersection, according to the navigation system, it's telling me this is our closest point. This is where our orbits get the closest. So from here, let's warp there. That'll become my periapsis. I'm going to burn my engine here to grow my orbit so that it's significantly more than Jettis's, so that he'll get to me quicker. Right now, he is catching up to me. His orbit's smaller than mine. He'll eventually pass me up, but that could take forever. I mean, that could take hours. I don't have hours, so let me make sure I still got some battery. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have battery because why is it not moving? I don't have a reaction wheel. That's why. I'm relying on the reaction wheel and this little thing to move me. Okay. Nice and slow. All right. So from here, I'll increase my apoapsis, and he'll catch up with me quicker. So this indicator should actually start to move towards me. Yeah, it will. Cool. I don't need it to get all the way. I just need it a little closer. Okay, that's plenty. That difference seems small, but it'll work out. So let me warp back to our intersect. So I'll go all the way back around the planet to here, and when I get to here, he'll be here. And when I get to here, just on the other side of the indicator, it's going to update his next position, and it should be pretty dang close to me. So let's warp here, and I'll start pointing retrograde so that when I get to the indicator, I'll be ready to slow down. There's a lot of good tutorials that'll probably explain this better than me. It took me quite a while to figure this out, and like all those tutorials would tell you, just practice, practice, practice. I've rendezvoused so many times now. Don't even know what I'm doing sometimes. I just do it. So that orange indicator is paired with that, whereas this darker red one is paired with this one. So we do have two intersects we could choose from, but I'm close to this orange one, so this indicator is about to move. Okay, so it jumped to here. So he'll be much closer to me next time, but still not close enough to rendezvous. But that's not a big deal. We'll warp back around the planet. We'll speed up time. This indicator is only 33 minutes from my current position, so it'll take me 33 minutes to get back around to here, which is not a big deal. Let's do that. And if you watch him, he's getting closer. Watch, he's about to really close the gap. It'll be pretty close to me when we get to the other side of the planet, but not close enough. We're going to dial it in right now. Okay. So I'm going to point retrograde so that I slow down and our orbits will get a little closer to each other. Right now, he's 64 kilometers away from me. I can get that to probably less than 1 or 2 kilometers. So I'm going to start burning retrograde. So right now he's going to pass me up, but he's no longer going to be quite as far. And I'm going to try to get it so that he doesn't pass me up at all. And he's going to get to that point when I get there. So that'll be 4.2 kilometers of separation over 3.8, 3.6. Okay, it's not moving now. So because of our inclination change, yeah, our inclination is a little off. So some of that 3.2 kilometers is vertical distance, but I can work with 3.2. So let's change our navigation. Instead of focusing on the orbit, let's focus on the target. And now I want to change my speed relative to the target. So the purple marker is the direction of the target. That's not what I want. I want to find retrograde to the target. Retrograde means the opposite direction that we are traveling away from each other, I suppose. All right, so that way I'll be pointing in this direction when we get to here, roughly. It should go around the ball and come back to the retrograde marker. I wouldn't be so worried about that if I had a control or action wheel or something, but right now it's pretty difficult to move this thing. It's clunky, heavy. All right, so let me get out of the map view. Should be able to see my target. Oh, we're moving 42 meters per second. Different. So we're moving away from each other at 42 meters per second. I need to cancel out that velocity. I think, yeah, we just passed our intersect. So we just got as close as we'll ever get, and now I'm canceling our speed so that right now we're moving away from each other at 3 meters per second, which is pretty slow. Now we're practically not moving away from each other at all. Okay, that's the best as I'm going to get it. Okay, there he is. There's Jettis. He's too far away still for me to control his craft, but we're getting there. So this is the easy part. We're so close. We're 3 kilometers away that now I can just point to him. I can point my craft at Jettis and burn. And there's my prograde marker. It's starting to move towards Jettis, which means I'm heading in his direction now. Whereas before we were going to start to separate again. So if I burn to the right, it'll move the reticle to the right. Okay, now I'm pretty much headed towards him at 12 meters per second. Which at 3 kilometers, our orbits are starting to, we're going to diverge again. So our closest point is going to be way over there. We'll get to be a kilometer apart, so let's warp there. Then, okay. Okay, let me slow down time again. We're moving 14 kilometers away from each other, I guess. Or that's how different our velocities are. So he's going to start to move away from me. I want to cancel that out back down to 0, and then point at him again. So we're still getting closer. We're still getting a little closer to each other, but that number is going to start to climb any second now. Let's see. It's slowing. Yeah. Okay, it's going to start climbing. So let me cancel our speed. Okay. We're within a kilometer. We should have gotten the contract to explore. Yeah. So this counts as parking 2 vehicles near each other. We're within a kilometer of each other. So now I can swap to him. I can swap to Jettis. This is his pod. He was in an onion. Right. I'm going to do a trick I learned. So I'm going to rename his pod as Debris. Otherwise, it's going to count as a ship, and it'll stay on my map and clutter things up. But right now, the game thinks it's Debris. Then I'm going to EVA Jettis. He's got an EVA pack on with these little RCS thrusters, those tiny little guys. He can select a ship, and he can do the rest of the work. He's got 5 units of EVA propellant, which is a lot. He can change his speed a whole lot easier than my big bulky ship. So man, he's cruising at 21 meters per second. He's going to collide with that rescue ship if I don't slow him down. So this is the easiest, most efficient way to rescue a Kerbal. Unless you want to spend the time and really pinpoint the rendezvous, you could absolutely touch the other vessel with the rescue vessel if you wanted to, but don't need to. As we get under 100 meters, I'll start to slow down. Really slow down. Don't want to hurt poor Jettis. All right. And remember, the door is to the left on these pods. if you're trying to do this, and for whatever reason it's dark, or right now we happen to be in the sun, one of the settings that I changed a long time ago, you can change the lighting in the game. If you're doing this on the far side of the planet without any lights, it could be pretty difficult to even spot the craft, much less, rendezvous and dock with it. So I've actually got lights turned up. Okay, board. All right, now Jedis is in there, and he is a pilot. So if I didn't have the probe core, Jedis would be doing the work, but I've already got a probe core, so I suppose Jedis is going to get credit for orbiting the planet, and he might get a star when we get back to the Space Center. Tanfrod is up next. You set him as the target. And in that time, we don't know. I'm pretty sure Mad Maul barely moved. I mean, he's still up at the peak of his orbit up there. So we're zipping around Kerbin, where he's just ooching along very slightly. So when I rendezvous with Mad Maul, I'm going to have to time it really well. So I'll probably meet him somewhere maybe 90 degrees or so from wherever his position is where we start the rendezvous maneuver. Okay, so next is Tanfrod, and he's far away again, and our orbits are too close. So let's see, 80, 82, 84, 88. His orbit is bigger than mine, which means I'm technically catching up to him, but I would have to make up this entire distance, which would take way too long. So I'm going to burn some fuel, and I'm going to make my orbit bigger than his, just so he catches up to me, because he's got a much shorter distance to travel than I would, or a much smaller gap to close. So let me change it back to an orbital setting on my nav ball. I want to burn retrograde. I'm sorry, prograde. I'm looking at retrograde. That's on the wrong side. So let's slowly move this bad boy. Prograde. I really don't know if I'll have enough fuel to catch our third Kerbal, which is not a big deal. I'll launch another vessel just for him. Our closest approach is going to come somewhere on this end, probably right next to where I'm currently at. Alright, don't want to burn too much fuel, but that'll definitely help him catch up to me. Alright, one trick you can do, you can double click on the planet, and it'll focus your view there so that my camera doesn't follow the craft around. So now I can quick save. Let's speed up time. See how soon it takes. Looks like the inclination, yeah, our inclination is pretty dead on now because I matched the other craft a while ago. So now, Tanfrod, I'm going to get pretty dang close to him. It's not going to be 3 kilometers away. We're going to be less than a kilometer if I'm patient. Okay, so remember there's 2 sets of intersects, the maroon and then the orange. Doesn't matter which one I shoot for. But right now, let's say it's the maroon. He's 842 kilometers behind me when I get here. Now he's 364. Yeah, we're closing the gap pretty quickly. Actually, he's going to pass me up on this next pass. So let me get ready to point retrograde. Let me recenter my camera. And I'm at 43 minutes. Jeez. Time flies when you're rescuing people. Just burned a little bit to control myself. All right, let's get to that. Yeah, see, yeah. It's gonna pass me up if I don't correct. So right now, he would pass me up by 162 kilometers. Let's see if I can close that gap down to less than a kilometer. No, because it's taking me a while to get to this maneuver node. Let's use my engine. There we go. Okay. That's starting to shrink. Let's see here. Ooh, 0.4. Okay, that's as good as I'm gonna get it. I'm not worried about getting any better than that. Warp there, change it from orbital navigation to target navigation, and I'm going to change from to retrograde so that I can slow our relative speed. We're going to be moving pretty fast. Oh, shoot, I should have picked a spot further back here to slow down time because I don't have much time to get to the marker. Got to slow down a lot. He's gonna zip right by me. Yeah, he's coming. So I gotta slow down a lot. There we go. It's good. He's gonna get a little closer. I'll let him get closer, and then I'll cut the rest of our speed. Again, this is relative speed, so we're moving towards or away from each other, or some combination of the two, at 16 meters per second. So once he gets to the closest point, he'll start moving away from me. Because this is the difference in our velocity. Alright, so now he's about as close as he's ever going to get, unless I make a correction. Okay, so now we're practically not moving in relation to each other. We're pretty stable. So if I wanted to, I can point my craft at his and start traveling closer to him, but 300 meters is nothing. I can actually physically see him. So we'll jump here, rename the vessel to junk, because it's junk, and EVA. Turn on your EVA pack. Tan fraud. Oh, and there's our craft. Again, we're in the bright side of the planet, which is nice. That used to not happen very often. And it's tough hitting a black object in the black space. Let's see. We can speed up a little bit, burn some of that propellant. Cruising in. Way too fast. See, I'm not even looking at the screen. I'm actually only just looking at the nav ball. Okay, so I can't see the hinge. It's probably on the other side, which means this is probably the door. Sometimes I'll put a logo or something. Experiment so I can see where the door is without having to cage. Yep, there we go. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to enter the pod because I forgot to transfer Jettis into the other part of the vessel. Transfer. Okay, good. Thought I wasn't working for a second. So now I can swap back. When I swap from one vehicle to another, it's no longer swapping me to Tanfrot's Hulk because I changed its condition. I changed its status from a ship to a piece of junk. So that's handy. Now Tanfrod is in the house. Let's transfer him. Wishful thinking into the crew cabin because we're going to rescue somebody, right? I hope. Mad Mall. Don't let me down, Mad Mall. Or I hope I don't let you down, I suppose. So we have a pretty big inclination difference. 19, almost 20 degrees. I'm going to burn a lot of fuel just matching that inclination. So we're going to quick save and add a maneuver to, yep, I already had it right in the first place. Match our, okay, nope, not nearly enough fuel. Just getting on the same incline as him. It's going to burn most of my fuel. So rescue for 2 it is. I have to send something separate just to get him, and we'll call it a video. Let me find my retrograde marker. Oh, that's prograde. Don't want that. Let me use my Terrier engine's gimbal to get to the retrograde marker a little faster. I'm just going to use my orbit information over here Watch my periapsis drop. Technically that's good enough, but if I wanted to, I could use the rest of my fuel to slow down. Um, let me make sure, yeah, I'll hit the atmosphere around here and I'll definitely splash in the water. Let's get it. Don't need to slow down. As a matter of fact, I may need to stop. I don't want to end up on the land, so I will let my onion pod do what I said it could. Let's put some weight in the front. I don't know if that's actually going to help distribute the weight, but and then we will jettison the Terrier engine and its fuel. And there's that little bracket that I was telling you about. So now it's a perfectly round, heat-resistant part of the ship. Let's enter the atmosphere. Hopefully slow down. Oh, I'm going to tumble because I don't have any navigation markers available. I was worried about this. No, this isn't good. I don't want to enter on top of the battery on the probe core. See if I can flip this thing around. Should have left the Terrier engine on. This is why we quick save. I'm going kind of fast. Probably too fast for that battery. And the weight was not distributed. There's another part that I'm missing that I typically put that distributes the weight a lot better. We'll blame it on the parts. How about that? I can just spin the craft a little bit. Either I can get it to turn right side, or I'll let the drag slow me down. Distribute the heat a little. Whatever makes sense. See those heat indicators, they come and they go. So as long as they don't max out, I'm not too worried. But the battery's getting hot. Yep, it's getting hot. Hang in there. Hang in there, Z100. Probe core's not looking good either. You're almost there. You are so close. Yeah. That'll do. Okay. Okay, now the air resistance will slow us down. Are we going to smash down? I don't think so. Nope. Alright. Let's pop some chutes. Flip this thing around. Experience a G or two. Don't need SAS for this. Let's get down to the planet. If you stuck around this long, appreciate you for watching. I'm going to call it a video. These guys are practically home. In the next video, we'll probably try to save our third Kerbal. And we're going to the moon. We can land there. We've got the parts. We have the technology. And we'll really get a lot of science doing that. And honestly, once you've built a craft that can get to the moon, then you can get to all the different biomes on the moon. I like going back as many times as I can before it doesn't make sense. You can go hit a bunch of different craters, different biomes, get lots and lots of science. And then it makes sense. Let's go to Minmus. You can, like I said before, unlock the entire science tree without even leaving Kerbin's sphere of influence. So that's the end of the video. Like I said, these guys are practically home. Appreciate you watching. Have a good one.